It was 3 years ago. I was in North Carolina, driving along US Route 70, heading north to my client, Wake Forest University. It had been almost 2 weeks since I had completed my work as chair of the UUA nominating committee. A year since I gave up my work as board chair of the Meadville Lombard Theological School. And 8 years since my 2 terms as UUA financial advisor had reached their conclusion. 20 years of continuous service. Then, a call came on my cell phone. I answered the call. It was Jim Key, the person who had just been elected financial advisor, had quit. Would I consider serving as financial advisor once again? I hemmed and hawed for at least a minute, because then I answered in the affirmative, because I always have. I still recall the very first call. It was in 1964, and from Ann Davidson, the newly elected president of the Liberal Religious Youth Group of my church in Grafton, Massachusetts. She asked if I would serve as corresponding secretary of the group. My job was to remind and entice the youth group members to come each week to our meetings. I knew that it was the program that would attract, so I focused on making sure we had substance to offer. And I haven't stopped since. Eventually, I became national president of LRY and was elected in 1969 to serve on the Commission on Appraisal. At that point, the youngest person elected by the General Assembly to an office. Since then, I've been elected by GA to one office or another in 4 different decades. Each time, I answered the call in the affirmative. Now I stand before you 3 years after that most recent call. Every day of service is an honor and a joy. You will never hear me groan and complain. I am looking forward to the next call. The financial condition of the UUA is stable. Our balance sheet is very strong. The quality of oversight is excellent. Our financial practices are above average for an organization of our size. The board and administration take their stewardship responsibilities very seriously. We make our mistakes, but they are corrected and we move on. The governance condition of the UUA is generally very good. The smaller board size and the end of district representation have improved board performance. There is more diversity. The board can think more deeply and focus only on board-level matters. The UUA, like your congregation, still has too many committees. They misdirect volunteer energy away from mission-focused work. The shorter terms of officers and trustees, coupled with annual elections, are inhibiting the long-term focus that makes change possible. I see the decline of our membership numbers and RE enrollments as troubling, even though I know those are flawed measures. As a history buff, I know that the Unitarian movement suffered similarly in the 1930s and revived itself, and that Unitarian Universalism suffered similarly in the 1970s and revived itself. But there's also the story of Universalism in the 20th century, which suffered a gradual decline without reviving itself, all the while congratulating itself on its virtues. I am hopeful and devote all of my volunteer energies toward justifying that hope. I see hope in the ministers who are assuming leadership within our movement and our most vibrant congregations. My family's doing its part to contribute some of those ministers. I see hope in the congregations that are thriving because of their spiritual depth and mission focus. I see hope in our commitment to Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ work, and in our commitment to becoming an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, multicultural movement. I see hope when I see us cast aside old structures like committees and districts that divert our energies inward rather than on mission. I am grateful to have made a difference in the UUA in so many ways, including strengthening the clergy compensation program, including establishing a unified retirement plan, improving oversight by creating an audit committee, among many other steps, institutionalizing our commitment to socially responsible investing, and finding qualified and committed people to serve our association. I'm grateful to have helped the Meadville Lombard Theological School transform itself and thrive. And I'm glad that I helped the Starr King School for the Ministry at a time of great need. When I was growing up and attending Sunday school, there were certain phrases that seem almost antique that have stayed with me and that I repeat often as silent mantras. The first is the James Freeman Clarke phrase, salvation by character. Not the rest of the statement, but just those three words, salvation by character. The second is the reworking of the lines that originated with James Viola Blake. Love is the doctrine of this church, and service is its prayer. And service is its prayer. I am grateful for every opportunity for service. I answer each call and say yes. That is my prayer. Amen.